The New York Times called it the Trumpist case for Fed Chair Janet Yellen. Should he reappoint her?
Good morning, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Just principally because I think continuity is important. I think the president has a lot of other things on his mind, and it's clearly with respect to trying to keep things very simple this morning in terms of priorities. Coming into office, there was a bunch of stuff said and a bunch of stuff to do, and now it seems like he's being very pointed in terms of trying to get this done. So we personally, Brian Belski, Investment Strategy, BMO, think it would not be a surprise for him to re-elect Yellen.
Is it the best choice out of the people that you've heard of?
Well, from a continuity standpoint, yes. Now, the key thing that I think no one is talking about is that Yellen was handed the ball off from Bernanke, who was really a crisis manager.
Yeah.
And so Yellen followed that mantra in terms of being a crisis manager. We are at crisis rates. Now we've only just begun, if you want to cue the Carpenter's music, to come up from these crisis levels in terms of Fed funds rate. It's still very early. So the mechanisms of how the Fed is working is still very much at a low for longer crisis type management. So again, she's probably better equipped than a hawk, because at this point, from our view, because maybe a hawk might be a little bit too aggressive. But the other thing, if you look back at history, the Fed typically and historically is always late in terms of raising interest rates. So you have to, which evil do you want to know?
Well, but what you have to think is that no matter what, Trump's going to want somebody who's a hardcore supply sider, right? Because he's going to want to get his fiscal stimulus out there. He's going to want to get tax reform out there and the central banker to kind of sit back and let it do its work.
Well, it's pretty clear that both offices and both roles are supposed to be mutually exclusive.
Sure.
Presidents
in
theory, and presidents in the past have worked. Some have worked very well with the Fed. Some have not worked very well with the Fed. President Reagan worked exceptionally well with Volcker in the early '80s. So, again, that was an era where Washington all kind of still talked to each other. So I think it's too simple to say that we're automatically going to want a supply sider.